Peter, James, and John had never seen anything like it. They followed Jesus up a high mountain. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. A hush fell over them as the climb grew steeper. They could feel something special was about to happen, and then it did.
What's happening? This light, it's so bright.
A light, brighter than the sun, suddenly enveloped Jesus. It was as if a door to heaven had opened right there on the mountaintop. The disciples shielded their eyes, momentarily blinded by the glorious light. When they could see again, they were speechless. Their friend, their teacher, Jesus, was no longer just a man. He was glowing, radiating a light from within. His clothes were dazzling white, whiter than any fuller on earth could make them. Fear and awe filled their hearts.
What is happening? Who is this man?
Jesus' face shone like the sun. His whole being radiated a power and glory they had never witnessed before. He was still Jesus, but at the same time something was profoundly different. He was no longer just a man. He was revealing his true divine nature. Peter, James, and John watched in astonishment as Jesus was transfigured before their very eyes. He stood above them, bathed in celestial light. The air crackled with unseen energy. This was no ordinary event. This was a glimpse into the very heart of heaven.
Look, who are those figures beside him?
As the disciples looked on, two figures appeared beside Jesus. They recognized them instantly: Moses, the great lawgiver, and Elijah, the mighty prophet. What were these pillars of their faith doing there? It was a scene beyond their wildest imaginations. The disciples were speechless. Moses and Elijah, figures from the ancient scriptures, were talking to Jesus. What were they saying? The disciples strained to hear, their hearts pounding in their chests. Moses, representing God's law, and Elijah, representing the prophets, stood in deep conversation with Jesus. They spoke of his departure, his exodus, which he would soon accomplish in Jerusalem. It was a conversation of cosmic importance, a merging of past, present, and future.
Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah.
He didn't know what to say. It felt right to offer something, to do something. Building shelters seemed like a good idea at the time.
As Peter was still speaking, a bright cloud overshadowed them.
It came in swiftly, engulfing them in its luminous embrace. The disciples were overwhelmed with awe and a touch of fear.
What new wonder was this?
From the cloud, a voice boomed, shaking the very mountain with its power.
"This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him."
The voice, filled with authority and love, resonated through them, leaving no doubt as to its source. This was God the Father speaking directly to them.
The disciples fell face down to the ground, terrified by the voice and the overwhelming presence of God.
They had never felt such power, such holiness before. They trembled, unsure of what would happen next.
Jesus, seeing their fear, came and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid."
His voice, calm and reassuring, soothed their trembling hearts. He was their rock, their anchor in this storm of divine revelation.
As they looked up, the cloud was gone. Moses and Elijah were gone.
Only Jesus stood before them, his face still shining with a gentle light. He was their shepherd, and they were his sheep. He would lead them through this, just as he always had.
"Don't tell anyone what you have seen," Jesus instructed, "until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead."
They didn't understand everything, but they knew they had witnessed something extraordinary, something sacred. They would honor his words. They made their way down the mountain, their steps lighter than air, yet their hearts heavy with the weight of the secret they carried.
They had seen Jesus in his glory, and their lives would never be the same.
The memory of the Transfiguration, the radiant light, the heavenly visitors, and the voice of God would remain etched in their hearts forever. It was a divine glimpse into the true nature of Jesus, a confirmation of his identity and his mission.
As they descended, they pondered what Jesus meant by "until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead."
What did this rising mean? They didn't fully understand, but they held on to his words, trusting that in time, all would be revealed. The Transfiguration of Jesus is not just an ancient story, it holds a powerful message for us today. It reminds us that Jesus is not just a man. He is the Son of God, radiant with glory and power. He is the one we should listen to, the one we should follow. Just like the disciples on the mountaintop, we too are called to be transformed by our encounter with Jesus. We are called to reflect his light, his love, and his grace in our daily lives. We are called to be beacons of hope in a world that desperately needs His presence. Let us, like Peter, James, and John, be open to the awe-inspiring moments when God reveals Himself to us. Let us listen to His voice, follow His guidance, and share the transformative power of His love with the world. For in doing so, we too become part of His glorious transfiguration story. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more Bible stories.